Oh, yeah, you can make sure it don't. It's up to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Advantageousness. I am a researcher, therapist, artist, most importantly, I'm a philosopher. And today I want to share some of the work that I've done while we're at Howard. This was my PhD in neuropsychology. And I also want to give a shout out to my research team, Darius, College, and the rest of the Power Perspective Lab. So basically what I set out to do in this project was something that hasn't been done before. Up until now, we have treated beliefs as if they're like above reproach. So we wouldn't have a scientific basis to say my beliefs are better than yours. Most scientists would probably say, well, that's subjective. You know, you feel how you feel about your beliefs, and I feel about mine. What I set out to do in this project is to find a basis for us to at least intersubjectively judge beliefs and say, this one is better than that one for X, Y, Z reason. Okay, so the framework that I created is psychological advantageousness. As you can see, it shows the relationship between someone's mental and emotional infrastructure, a lot of words, but basically your internal world, what's going on. Not just what you think, not just thoughts and feelings, but also how they're arranged, the design of them. When you think of infrastructure in like city planning, you might think roadways, stop signs, street lights. Are the roads 2 lanes, are they 1 lane? You might go to Detroit, you see roads that's 5 lanes. That affects how traffic flows. In a similar way, I would say, when we look at like brain architecture, your nerves, what type of neurons you have, where they're placed, how they're interconnected, mirrors how we model cities. And then when we think about psychologically, it's also mirrored because the way the constructs, the way your nomological network is arranged is going to be unique to the person. So when I say the word cat, an image may pop into your mind of some people are going to think of a gray cat, some people are going to think of an orange cat. If you had an orange cat, you might also feel an emotion. You might feel the joy of the cat that you had. Or if you got bit by a cat or scratched, you might feel like fear or anger or something like that. So just to show there's a parallel between the neuropsychological infrastructure, psychological infrastructure, and then just regular infrastructure in city planning. On the other side, I want to connect the internal world to life outcomes. Specifically, I was looking at quality of life and correlates of quality of life. Correlates of quality of life could include heart rate variability, executive functioning. I mean, those were the 2 that I looked at in this actual study. But it could also be income and other things. Okay, this is me in the lab. We're going to get into my method. Step 1, I had to create a tool to forge a sword that I could use to actually capture what I was trying to bring into reality. I created the dispositional affective frequency questionnaire. Basically, it has 2 parts. The first part is all demographic questions. You answer questions about, race, age, gender, but also you answer questions about what you believe, which was a new addition to, the field to begin to categorize people as believers and non-believers. That's another way you could split your sample, and that's what we did in this study. And then part B has 57 dispositional or affective items. So happy, sad, noticed, and participants rated on a Likert scale how typically they felt each emotion. Because I wanted to see Well, if I say, for example, at the inception of this measure, I was looking at social organizations. So let's say, even if we do employers, if I started working at Howard, how is that affecting my quality of life? Am I happy? Am I sad? Do I feel noticed? And then originally I wanted to look at somebody that's new. Maybe I just started working at Howard this month, compared to somebody who's been working at Howard for 20 years. Do they feel differently? Is their quality of life different? Because going back to being a philosopher, it's not so much looking at the individual as like the culprit. We're looking at the belief, or in that case, it would be the organization. So as a function of being a Howard employee, who do I become? Or what becomes of my quality of life? You can do this part on your phone. This part is a little interactive. If you want to take your phone out, you can just choose. There's 11 clusters of beliefs, and there's 37 beliefs total. For each one, just pick which one you think has the best quality of life. The first cluster is God exists, God does not exist, or I don't know. You can pick, whichever one. The next one is the world does not owe me anything, the world owes me everything, I do not know. The glass is half empty, the glass is half full, I do not know. Hard work pays off, hard work does not pay off, I do not know. It is safer to trust nobody, some people, everybody, I do not know. And everything happens for a reason, or no reason, or I do not know. We also had, in uncertain times, I usually expect the best, the worst, or do not expect anything, and I don't know. We had no one cares about me, some people care about me, everyone cares about me, or I do not know. We had successful people are just lucky, successful people do bad, immoral, dishonorable, distasteful, or harmful things. Successful people work harder than others around them, and I do not know. And I adapt easily to change, I do not adapt easily to change, I do not know. And then the last question was, I'm willing to marry outside of my race, I'm not willing to marry outside of my race, or I do not know. So we basically believe people selected whatever they believe, and then we were able to use that to see, to compare, okay, if we have 10 people in this one group, or we have 100 people in this one group, and we took an average, what's the average quality of life outcomes associated with that belief? Because then we could go to neutral people who haven't selected this and say, oh, like every belief comes with car facts now, or like nutrition facts. I know if I sign up to believe that I'm willing to marry outside of my race, this is typically this is the quality of life that's associated with that belief for the people that believe it. So basically, this is part B. We use a Likert scale, and participants rated. They would respond to the prompt. Typically, I feel noticed. Strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. Typically, I feel happy. And then you put your numbers. And then we summed all the numbers up. And that was the DAF-Q. We also administered 3 other assessments. The WHO QOL brief, which is the World Health Organization's brief form of their quality of life assessment. The original assessment is like 100 items. But I was doing research here. People don't want to be here all day, so I chose the 26-item version. We did the Stroop task, but we changed it a little bit, so it was closer to the color word interference task, but we did it digitally, and they had to press a key on the keyboard instead of saying it. So there was like a motor component that's not typically involved in the Stroop. And then we used the ECG. The WHO QOL was how we operationalized quality of life. The Stroop was how we operationalized executive functioning, and then the ECG we used to operationalize heart rate variability. This is our sample. We had 95 participants. The average age was 22, but the mole age was 18. The gender was 66% female, and everybody identified as black. Some people identified as black plus another race. So we had about 6 or 7 people that might put a black plus Latinx or whatever it is. Okay, now we'll jump into results, and I can tell you what I found. Okay, so this is showing a graph looking at the DAF-Q. Total scores we had like 57 items, and it shows God exists, God does not exist, and I do not know. All 3 groups were significant. so we can say that this graph is not due to chance, basically. The surprising thing was that people that said God does not exist reported a higher quality of life compared to people that said God exists. And those types of findings is what I wanted to investigate scientifically, because I know a lot of people that might shock you and be like, no, God doesn't exist. I feel better with that, but have you ever tested it? Or we just say that because that's how we raised, that's what we grew up believing, like, yeah, God exists. So yeah. The next one was MRMSSD is the mean of the root mean sum of squared differences, which is all of that. This is how we measure heart rate variability. So there's like different metrics you can use. This one specifically talks about like your vagus nerve inhibiting your heart from your vaguely mediated heart rate variability. And on this one, there was a significant difference between the I do not know group and the world does not owe me anything group. So people that said I do not know actually had higher heart rate variability compared to people who definitely felt like the world doesn't owe them anything. Another surprise, because my impression was people that thought the world does not owe me anything would have higher heart rate variability, because from my cultural background, that's a common belief. But it seems like the I don't know group was questionable because it's a lot that goes into that. That group often has the least number of people to endorse it. So that's one factor to consider. But also, what does it mean to say I do not know? Is this person in like a superposition where they haven't selected a belief, or are they unsure, they're on the fence, they got a little bit of both? That we would have to unpack in like a future study. The next one was the glass is half empty was significantly different from the glass is half full. And on this one, this is based on the who, pure, well. So this is a measure of quality of life. The higher score equates to higher quality of life. So people who endorsed the glass half full had higher quality of life than people who had endorsed the glass half empty. This one is also for the who, pure, well, and it shows that there's a significant difference between people who endorse hard work pays off and hard work does not pay off. But people who endorse hard work does pay off had higher quality of life than people who said it does not. This one shows on the DAV-Q that people who endorsed hard work pays off was the same thing. So both of those were two separate measures of quality of life. On both, people who endorsed hard work pays off had higher quality of life. But that was kind of like what I expected. For this one, the I do not know group outperformed the others significantly. There was a significant difference between the I do not know group and in uncertain times I usually expect the best, as well as the I do not know group and in uncertain times I do not expect anything. So on this one, the I do not know group had significantly higher heart rate variability than those other groups. Successful people do bad things was significantly different from successful people work harder than others around them. With lower scores on this one are better. So we use the time interference metric to score this group, which basically we took the two control conditions and subtracted them from condition 3 where they had to identify incongruent word color pairs. So basically, lower scores on this means it took you less time. There was less, you were faster in responding. So the fact that people who endorse successful people work harder than others around them have a higher number means that their executive functioning was lower compared to people who endorse successful people do bad things. I adapt easily to change was significantly higher than I do not adapt easily to change on the who, pure, well, which is quality of life. And then the last one is I adapt easily to change and I do not adapt easily to change were also significantly different on the DAV-Q. Okay, so what's the takeaway from this? The takeaway from this is using this framework of psychological advantageousness, we have now embarked on a new frontier where we can judge beliefs. We can judge beliefs based on the fruit of them. Like after you've been believing this for 6 months, a year, what became of can change your beliefs. If I have a belief and it's not serving me, I can discard it. Oftentimes when people go to therapy, that's part of the things that they do. They unpack like cognitive distortions or maladaptive cognitive schemas and things like that. So the literature supports it. It's just, this was like the first scientific investigation, at least that I've seen, where we looked at beliefs from such a philosophical lens. The takeaway would be to, if you change your beliefs, you can change your life. Although we didn't do like we didn't test the causation of relationships. All we did was correlation. So in future studies, we would love to do causation, and I would love to switch from doing heart rate variability to doing like neuroimaging. That would be like next, yeah. So that's my next, I guess, step in this. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Only a few questions, one for the one that I'll pinpoint for this would be what? Do you just think that the high heart rate for the individuals that state I don't know would just be they're more correlative to an anxious group of people? Because like I don't know would be someone that would be not willing to make a decision. So if you have high amounts of anxiety, your heart rate is just going to be variable every time you answer a question. So if you think that would be like your most conflating variable in that group of people?
I suppose it could. I guess I'm hesitant to say that an anxious person would endorse Advantageousness. If I'm understanding you correctly, saying that anxiety could be a confounding variable, that the people who endorsed I do not know could have been anxious, and then the people that chose something were not anxious.
Like they were more set into their beliefs, so you're not going to be as like variable in your response, like your autonomic responsiveness, because you just like have the answer, but you truly don't know.
Yeah.
There's going to be like.
I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. I don't have like an answer to that, but I can see that being plausible. Yeah.
So on the graph I'm seeing in the higher score mean have good quality of life. Now according to baseline, for example, you and me, who is the better quality of life?
We would have to take the data for the well to compare them. The numbers that I don't have like a standard to compare them to. I'm still in the process of like, this is all being made from scratch. But once I have more data, I can compare future studies to what we found in the past. I think the WHO Cure Well does give scale scores where I could compare it to other populations, but I haven't looked, so I can't really answer that. As far as between two people, I would just say, take the test, and then y'all can see who had a higher score. Miss?
I enjoyed your presentation. Do you think that age and generation play a role in your results?
Yeah, I do. I think age will affect what people believe. I think certain age groups will probably cluster around certain beliefs, and I think they may also have like other conditions that could affect them. Because even when we did heart rate variability, everybody's heart is different, and that could be tied to age or could not be tied to age. But having like health conditions could affect like how the ECG picks up the heart measurement, or having other like medical conditions could affect how they perform on a stroke. So I think, not to say being older means less healthy, because it doesn't, because, yeah, but I do think age is a factor to consider. Yeah.
Good. Quick question for you. Ken, do you believe that these choices can predict behavior?
Do I believe these choices, like the...
Yeah, so you're going through these, so the results from your survey, are you able to predict behavior?
Based on what I have now, scientifically, no. My heart, I feel like yes, but I would have to unpack. But on an official document, I can't say that. I can't put it in like paper intelligence. But if you ask me how I feel, yeah, I think what we believe, because a lot of this came from me listening to like a lot of motivational speakers, and their whole gimmick is like challenging your beliefs, what you think, your mentality, your mindset. Then you go into like law of attraction, spirituality, like how what you believe and what's going on in your internal world affects what you manifest in the physical reality. So I see it all connected. It's just scientists, I think scientists play a game of, it's like I would look at scientists almost like Houdini. Like, for example, in the research, scientists would rather personify body parts than acknowledge an agent inside the body that's animating the body parts. That's probably a topic for another day.
So based on all the specific structure, are you basically getting false choices?
False choices, you could argue that. I guess if people felt like they were forced to pick one or the other, then yeah, they could have felt that way. I think there was enough space. That's why I put the I don't know in there, because you don't have to choose. You could step back and say I don't want to choose either one, and that might explain some of the people that actually were in that I don't know group.
So when you then why you would scale the sort of force of choices?
Would I? I'm open to it. I mean, I really had a genuine curiosity in pursuing this endeavor, so I'm open to making all different types of changes just to see what happens. Like, jumble it up, change it, and see what comes out.
Interesting stuff. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did you think about having like a universal scale? Because I feel like changing like you have three like scale points that you use for the heart rate and the one for W and the other one. Is there a way you can combine all those so like each one of your graphs is uniform so we can see like the quality of life is actually represented within your question basis rather than like just like whatever test you chose to represent.
Yeah, I think that's what my advisor was trying to get me to do in a way. You basically asked me, can I collapse all the different data together to get like one score?
Yeah, because like you just switch between tests, so it's like, are you just picking the test that shows?
I only showed the significant results. There were a lot of insignificant results, but I didn't think y'all would want to hear about them. But yeah, to your point, yes, I could, and maybe in the future at some point will like create an index where I could collapse them all together. You just have one score that you can walk away with.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.